Hiya, welcome back. Another Marky-mark video. I'm on a bit of a roll today. I think it's because I've got a bit of time and peace to myself that I can make a few videos. Right, one of the things that's triggered me off to make this video was today's vinyl finds. I mentioned an album called The Ruby Chord by a northern English singer-songwriter artist called Richard Dawson. Now, I've noticed another huge, massive, multi-million YouTuber, The Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano, doing a review of Richard Dawson. He likes Richard Dawson, and I think he likes this album, but he's probably rated it a bit lower than I would like. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Many of you who know most of my videos from previous know that I'm a big jazz fan. So this, you can switch off now if you. I mean, it's fine. It's no problem. I've shown, Captain Beefheart's Trout Mask replica a few videos ago. It's not to everyone's cup of tea, but I'm going to spend maybe 10 minutes or so talking about Richard Dawson, and it's a fitting thing to do, really. That this album that he brought out last week is the end of a trilogy of 3 albums, obviously, trilogy, 3 albums. And he started it off with this album which grabbed me beyond most of my albums that I have in my collection, for many reasons. It's completely a weird album. I'm going to start by talking about the first album, then I'll talk a little about the second album, and then a little bit about the third album, but not in any great detail. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of information, just talk about the things that I find really interesting, and maybe a couple of tracks that have really done it for me. So let's start with this one, which my family hate. Well, I catch them humming it, and the first one that Richard brought out of the trilogy was The Peasant, which I believe he designed the front cover for. Very, very basic cover, a strange type, some sort of creature, possibly I don't know, going through a wood. This is 2017, I believe, on Domino Recording. He's a big, he's really in with Domino. They do a really, really good job. Weird World Records is the label, and this is a double LP gatefold album. And what Richard has done with this album, he's kind of produced an amazing number of tracks which reflect what he thinks and what I guess they would have been life in England 2,000 years ago. Each of the tracks is a character that could easily have been, a person 2,000 years ago, before Christ was born, before Christianity. And it's almost like, I've mentioned this before, it's like Geoffrey Chaucer, Canterbury Tales. Each of the poems that Geoffrey Chaucer wrote was about a character on their pilgrimage. And what I love about this album is that there is such a mixture of emotion. There's so much hard, grueling reality of what life might have been like 2,000 years ago. So if we go straight into track 2, the first track is a kind of strange, it's called Herald, and it's trumpeting and harping. It's very strange. And then it goes into this beautiful, gorgeous melody. This track called Ogre. And Ogre is really, as far as I understand it, it's kind of talking about um, people of that day, um, thinking about magic and evil. It's really about a creature that these people think are coming to get them. So the lyrics are fantastic. And what I like about the lyrics is that they're all printed on each of the inlays. So to make you appreciate what's happening in each of the tracks, you can just vividly think about the images that Richard is trying to depict. So, and I love the artwork and the inlays. So the first track, or the second track, is Ogre, or The Parents' Crusade, it's called. And it starts off very, very bold, wonderful arrangements here. In the kingdom of Brunei, verging on a muddy crook of Kokay, a dice of houses cast with clay and sheep dung. So we're going back, we're trying to sort of think about how people were living 2,000 years ago in this place in England, up in the north. And then it talks about that there's frightful news from town, of great evil abound. The heartbroken potter's idiot boy was snatched from the spelt field, scouring a fortnight in the hills. All they found, pointing from a small grey hand. So boy is snatched, he's killed, and they've all presumed it's some huge evil ogre thing that's coming. Anyway, that's the first one. The third track is The Soldier, which is an amazing ballad, really, about this poor chap who's about to go to war, and he's frightfully scared, and he's thinking about his girlfriend, his wife, his partner, and it's I'm tired, I'm afraid, and my heart is full of dread. And then a chorus at the very end where he's thinking about disappearing, running off, and he says, I'm tired and I'm afraid, but my heart is full of hope. And he's thinking about his life away from war. It's a wonderful album. It really is. Oh, it's great. And then there's a track 5 is The Prostitute, about this poor woman who's in a life of prostitution and basically tries to escape. And I'm not going to say any more about that. So this is Peasant. It's full of strange instrumentation. It's very, very creative. There's a lot of stuff going on here. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's very, very rewarding. I mean, I think it's a fabulous listen. It's a very special album. So I said it was part of a trilogy. This is set 2,000 years ago, I think. And he then brings out in 2019, just before the pandemic, he brings out this wonderful album, which is called 2020. Now it's 2019 on Domino. Again, Weird World Records. And again, it's a double LP. And it's a fantastic, again. But this is set actually in modern day. And it talks about the civil servant. That's the first track, about the mundane bureaucracy that plagues local government, dealing with ridiculous paper pushing red tape. And then it talks about, the second track is called The Queen's Head, which is a wonderful track about this pub that becomes flooded. And it's so poignant because we had so much flooding in the UK in 2019. It was just horrific. Poor people who were sort of flooded time and time again, getting their places all done up and then flooded again. So there's a real kind of current modern day climate change theme with this album, which makes it even more special. I really like Jogging. There's a wonderful track called Jogging, and that's about dealing with anxiety and how his doctor or a doctor prescribed exercise to get rid of anxiety. And it's a wonderful track. Um, there's so much emotion again. There's so much. The human condition is really described in these albums about love, about sadness, about loss, and about hope. And I really love. I love Heart Emoji, which is track 5, sorry. And Heart Emoji is about this couple that meet when they're pulling pints as students. They meet, fall in love, sort of, and much later on in their relationship, he catches her having a bit of an affair, and he gets really cross about it and gets really upset. But the end of that track is wonderful, where he's standing in the kitchen and he steps on a slug, and kind of cold light of day just suddenly switches on. Anyway, it's wonderful, really nice. 2020, and that came out. Well, it came out in 2020, really, 2019, 2020, and I love the artwork as well. Really kind of basic, but really interesting. Is it gatefold? No, it's not gatefold. It's a double LP, but it's really special. So in between that, Richard collaborated with Circle. So this has nothing to do with the trilogy. I'm going to just throw this in and talk very briefly about it. This is a 2021, again, Domino recording. And he collaborates with this band that are very well known for kind of heavy rock, I think. And again, a lot of story about society, and yeah, just there's a lot going on there. It's a really good listen. I really like it, actually. Circle have been going for a while, I understand, and I can't remember if they're Danish. I can't remember where they're from, but they're a really well known band, and I just love the artwork. I'm trying to show the artwork if I can on this album cover. I think, are they Danish? That's bad. Again, all the lyrics are on the inlays. You've got very basic artwork. Yeah, I think it was just a bit of a side project, really, for Richard. But again, just hugely rewarding. I don't think it's linked to the first two that I've just shown. But anyway, I'm gonna move on. I mean, it's great. It's lovely. It's a good. There's a real thumping tribal feel to this album, which is a bit of a sidestep from Peasant and 2020. So he brings this out, and I mentioned this earlier on today as part of my vinyl finds, but I might try and go in a bit more detail because I realised I didn't do it justice, to be honest. Sadly, it's not a gatefold, but this is basically set. So we've seen the past, the present, this is the future, and this is set, I think it's about 500 years in the future, where the Earth's in a bad way, and human beings are far and few between, and the ruby chord, as I see it, is, I think it's about traveling. I mean, it's about traveling, human beings trying to make a go of it and survive. And it's the first track is, as I've said before, it's 40 minutes long. He doesn't start coming in with lyrics until about 20 minutes in. But for me, it makes absolute sense. It's about the slow drudgery of life, how things, and then suddenly things kick into place. And that's when he starts the lyrics for the first track, which is called The Hermit. The artwork is absolutely stunning. I hope you can see that. And what I really like about this, which I wanted to mention in my previous video, and I haven't, it's just a couple of references to Peasant. As I see it, there's probably lots more, but there were two things that really stood out for me, and I'll try and remember to talk about that. So here we are. This is the first LP of the two, and it shows this wonderful picture of old England. Sorry, New England. It's kind of old, but it's a bit well, it's functioning. It looks like an old England scene, but this is set in like the future. I know that much. And this is the second LP, which is kind of like futuristic, dystopian. I mean, the artwork's fantastic. You know, everything's decayed and falling down or what have you. But this whole first LP of the set is all about the hermit, and the lyrics kick in, and he talks about. I mean, it's all about the things that aren't happening, the things that are a bit dilapidated and a bit rubbish. But he mentions, still ringing in my ears as I went creel in hand through the bog of names. And the bog of names is a place which he mentions on The Peasant, where one of his characters gets stuck in the bog of names. The bog of names trying to chase a jewel, I think it is, and he's helped out of this bog by this character. So that's the whole LP is 40 minutes long. But it's a wonderful. It's really really driving, rich, foreboding, dark track that starts off, and wonderful. There's just wonderful things in here. There's lovely instrumentation. There's harps, violins. It's just beautiful. And then we get into the thick of it on the second LP, Thicker Than Water, which is what the next track is called. And it's just wonderful. It's a really lovely listen. The whole album's wonderful. But he ends the album with a track called Horse and Rider. And I think that is linked with Peasant, because in Peasant, we've got a character in the track called The Prostitute, this poor woman who's enslaved to be a plaything for basically a prostitute, and it says, "Is there no reason for me to exist, but for as a plaything of miscreants, swindlers, dastards, and knaves?" But at the end of The Prostitute in Peasant, she stole a horse called Old Speckled Brownface from the royal tannery, and its haunches are glassy with sweat. We burst through the birch, turn our heads north. With dawn in our lungs, we reach the border. So she escapes from her misery, basically, and finds hope. And at the end of this, the Ruby chord in the track called The Horse and Rider is I'm getting getting goosebumps thinking about it. But in the Horse Rider, this character, basically, this is the song. The track is basically read by the horse, in fact. So our breath mingles in the stable gloom as you attire me by a spoke of moon, bridles across my face and bit between my teeth. Through the mews a crackle with frost, led by the rains down shadowy black back lanes. And leaving behind a rose horizon frozen in place, you lean forward in the saddle to embrace. I wonder if my lady knows there's no way back to the world from which she was born, and that the only way out is forward and down. Along weed-burst motorways we tear, past the tangled silence of our emptied cities. Over unseen churning seas we go, never-ending passage through the cold and dark. And that is the end of this wonderful album. And I think that is one of the key links between this album and the first. He manages to bring it all together. So, if you're still with me, you're still awake, and you're interested in some very rewarding, strange but beautiful music that has a wonderful meaning to it, I thoroughly recommend this. The Ruby chord, Richard Dawson, but you need to listen Yeah, you need to listen to Peasant and then 2020. And if you're still with it at that point, give it a go. I hope you're still with me on this. Thank you for listening if you are. If not, I'll be doing some more jazz soon. I'm very, very certain of it. But for me, this has got a very special place in my heart with the other two albums. Many thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.